Hello. So, you can probably guess what I'm going to be doing, but I've started doing a couple of book throughs, and hopefully this one's going to go a little bit better than the last. And it's just trying to sort of like angle things so you can't see the floor off to the left or whatever. And it's trying to get everything an all right sort of zoom and stuff, because I've got a small side table and mostly doing this on. But it's good news. Since the last book through, I managed to get a new tripod, so things should be a little bit more stable, hopefully, and a little bit sort of, yeah. Rather than me having to hold on to the the tripod and hope it's going to be stable enough with you seeing some of my knuckles or something in the corner. But as you can probably see, you can probably even guess what we're going to be having a book through today. And this is one of I know you can get the reprints. You have to. It's mainly from Warhammer World that you get the reprints, or you can have a look on eBay for people who have been to Warhammer World and are selling them for another 50% on top of their resale price from Warhammer World. But yeah, not everyone can get to Warhammer World. I think it's a little bit of a trip, but I'm not too far away from Warhammer World. But still, I managed to get this from a friend numerous years ago. It must be about a decade ago now. And I keep meaning to... It's just a lovely piece of history. It's the Rogue Trader thing, because you can tell this isn't a reprint because it's a bit tatty and things. Dog-eared. Pardon me. I say things are going to be more stable, but, I do that. There we are. Reorganise things. Right, so... Hey, look, it's Imperial approved. But, here we are. Let's have a look at this. I've had this for years, and it's a John Sibbick. You can sort of see here. John Sibbick art. He's done a few things. It's a shame they didn't necessarily carry on with using some of his artwork. But I know he'd done the third ed fantasy rule book. I think he did the second edition The Woods rule book cover, and I think a lot of the time he's also spent a lot of time doing dinosaurs. So yeah, but let's have a look. Let's have a book through. Yeah, I'm just getting used to doing the wonderful spreads. I had done a set. Unfortunately, I'm missing a few pages, so I've only got half the contents page. But I get told twice that it's by John Sibbick of 1987. His dinosaur stuff's good. It starts 203 pages in. But yeah, I did a number of book throughs, and it was ages ago when I had a previous channel. And it was basically just me sat in front of the thing, just basically bringing it back to me, opening it up, turning the page and opening it up to a new page. But yeah, these are the days. Yeah, what you'd need. Scenery. And I don't think they necessarily do have. No, they don't. But I know in second edition they had the green spiky balls with the red spikes. And I just thought, I wonder if those are in here. No. Chapter of the Dark Brotherhood. Yeah, and it goes in. This is the days when you still had like the leadership, intelligence, cool, and willpower, clever, and you could still have Zotes, angry dread. Some of the old I like this sort of, that they've put a sort of like almost like a warm tone on the onto the photos of these. It's sort of like, I don't know. It's probably not necessarily the models that have that, but it's it's probably more the photo. But yeah, it goes into movement. You've got the for example, a human wearing a suit of mesh armour suffers a movement penalty of 1/2 inch. A standard human movement is 4 inches, so adjust the movement distance. So the adjusted movement distance will be 3.5 inches. They did something very similar with the third Ed fantasy book, and it's just sort of, I think like, because dwarves, if you're putting them in like heavy armour with a shield, well, they only move. They're basically halving their movement distance. They'd be reduced by 1.5 inches, and their movement's already, that they started out with the movement of 3. So, yeah, and yeah, that also applied to horses and stuff. It's like I think you could have one piece of armour and it'd move all right, but saying that you could have a heavy armour. Oh, yeah, a shield and barding, that's 1.5. Original movement's 8 inches. It's now doing 6.5, but still, that's pretty decent when sort of an equivalent member of infantry is then 2.5 inches or something. I think that's the way that did it. It's probably just, I think it was 3. I'd have to have a look. I'm blathering. I'm talking about another different rule set. It's like I'm doing a book through of this. Blather, blather, blather. But it's some of it, because I do like the sort of like, I've had a look through this and it's one of those things. I remember doing the book through of this to begin with and seeing the Crimson Fest. And it's all the beaky marines. I mean, he's blowing up. He is. But at the time, I sort of wanted to start getting a Crimson Fest army, but it's trying to get it a Crimson Fist Beaky Marine army, and with the Beaky Marine Crimson Fist army, it was sort of a case of the most efficient way of probably getting that is getting some of the Horus Heresy infantry, plastic infantry. I think they had an advert for Zotibix somewhere instead of Weetabix. John Blanche, or was it Prophet Lehman Russ? This is. Lehman Russ. And I can't. The 2612-016 of the 32nd millennium. Guranta de Gurantan system. Well, yeah, of course, you've got the to hit modifiers and, the whole weapon skill. Crossing a defended obstacle is a to -1. +1 for following up, or being, +2 for frenzy. But that's a psychological thing. I still like Eldar. I'm still sort of tempted to get to Eldar and stuff. Nah. I remember it was when they released the Fire Prism for Eldar, when Eldar were Eldar, and I thought that was one of at the time I was probably about 9 or 10 or something at the time. I remember thinking that was one of the most beautiful models about, and I wanted one at the time, and it's sort of, I'm still sort of harkening back to them with some of this stuff. Nah. He closed his eyes up tight and fired the bolter. He opened his eyes as the animal fell, its reptilian limbs clawing fitfully as the poison did its work. The creature shivered as the venom spread through its blood system, rupturing arteries and veins. After a few moments, The grox began to choke on its own blood. It would die soon, and he must act quickly. There's more, but, you know. Route and pursuit. Doing reserves. Psychology. But yeah, it's... I know a few people have got the some of the old models and doing lamenters and stuff, and them trying to do the by hands doing the check pattern on the shoulders. Well, yeah, I quite like how they did the turning arc instead of just turning on the spot. It's speed, yeah, and then it's sort of like having a central point, and it's sort of the distance it has travelled, and then it's that's going to the pivot and then pivoting from there around in a turning, a turning arc. That's pretty good. I quite like that idea. I know people usually want a quicker game, and it's just a level of stuff that convolutes thing a bit more. But yeah, robots. Not chaos-possessed robots, but robots. And everyday life in human and alien societies. And then they wrote that AI was weird and did a thing. So you don't have sentient robots. Because iRobot. Yeah, flyers. In Fantasy, they've got something different. Fantasy 3rd edition, they've got something different where you'd have the different levels. And so you can dive and land, and you're going up different levels and stuff, and then it's sort of have an advantage if you're swooping down. Personalities taking over units. Mr. Ra. Ooh, psionics. Yeah, because there was laser burn, and I know some of the rules passed over from that to this. That was the game designed by Brian Ansell before 40k, and there were some of the influences. Yeah, they had a little diagram for all the actual sort of the stuff, like that's wind blast. No, that is teleport, and it's got the zoop through a whole thing. Yeah, I like that they've actually put in pictures of the effect, what the effect looks like. Limbo, strength of mind, temporal distort. It's just sort of that you can create your own mutants and stuff as well. Because I think this is the days before, just lots, and then you've got diagrams within diagrams. Yeah, that you've got, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got 94 different options, and then you've got options within options. Overgrown body parts, and you can have different arms, and it means... Yeah. An arm that's arms that are 4 times the size, +2 strength, an extra attack, but -1 initiative. Yeah. I think all these guys were based on some of the stuff, I think, at the time. I don't know who's who, really, but apparently some of these guys were based on the stuff, I think. I seem to remember. Danger mutants. Yeah. I was gonna. Can you tell which one's Rick Priestley? Because I can't. Yeah, in a sense, I miss the sort of the old style of squat. I know it's a bit of that they want it to be all grim, dark, and sensible, and having biker dwarves, and turning egg to armour for the squats. That's not necessarily taking it as sensible as they like, but it would be nice to, I don't know, having some sort of like, if they did Leagues of Votan and there was sort of like an exiled or nomadic contingent that were basically just sort of, more rough and ready, and basically it was the bikers, and the leader could be in egg-shaped Terminator armour. That might be quite fun. I like that idea. I'm just having a check at because I'm gonna try and film several of these book throughs at once. They're all going to be long, but I've got the Siege book, and to go with this. It's to double up as with this and the third ed fantasy book. Unfamiliar equipment, but the graviton gun. Yeah, it's sort of with the Adaptus Mechanicus. Can you get stuff like the graviton gun? I don't know. It's and it's just having the. In a sense, with some of the stuff, they keep. I think it's stuff like the Leagues of Votan. I think some people might see them as a bit more of a novelty, but it's sort of with it. They're bringing back some of the more eccentric sort of stuff, or takes on some of the more eccentric stuff. And I'm just sort of thinking, it's like having the musket and the hand bows and stuff. I used to be quite taken with the Inquisitor game that and Dan Abnett did Eisenhorn to try and tie into it. Of course, the novels were more successful than the game, but I'm still very fond because you could just, with all the equipment you could have, you could still have, like, say, a medieval world, and they've got they're all done up in as landsnakes with muskets or something, or crossbows or whatever, and then sort of it's just sort of or done up as landsnakes and having a plasma gun. It's just sort of just being able to be as archaic or as bringing in weird stuff like the more futuristic stuff like the Force sword, and giving it to folks like that, and you basically being able to do like full on Mad Max cowboy types, and just and it's and they did have something a bit more like being able to do the profiles where it was. You had the damage and the strength and everything, the types, the save modifiers and the to hit modifiers and stuff, short range and long range and everything. It was sort of Neuro Disruptor. Still got the Jacaro digital weapons. Getting into doing that, fitting it into rings and stuff. It's just sort of, quite liked Inquisitor because it's a bit like with this. You could just be eccentric and just have sort of all this sort of stuff, and it was, and you could just bring in all the eccentricities of, like having like medieval worlds or primitive worlds and stuff, and just having like, people in furs racing at you with clubs, and someone's got like a singular las cannon or something. It's just Well, it's just sort of you can see all of these sort of stuff. Heavy Weber. It's just, I don't know, it's sort of, cause, with the Siege book that sort of accompanied this and third ad, it sort of almost promotes the eccentricity and a bit of crossover. That you could leave room for a sort of like storytelling campaign where, you know, yeah, Eldar get dropped into orbit or something. Yeah, it's just, I'm sort of looking at this and sort of wondering stuff, and it's, yeah, it's like they're, you know, arg. Scare gas, rad, psych out, haywire, smoke, stasis, tanglefoot, stun gas. That you could sort of like just have, yeah, and it's going a bit more sort of full, you know, Starship Trooper the film or whatever. And this is, you know, about a decade before that film came out. But yeah, you could just sort of, with these, you could just sort of go into all this sort of really weirdness and just sort of have all these eccentric weapons to just be weird to your opponent and stuff. Of course, big giant tables, vehicle profiles. Yeah, Crimson Fist, I think. Battle for Geostation Erpes. No H. He wears his Erpes on his head. But done. But yeah, it's Orcs Battle Marines. Yeah, it's just sort of, yeah. That they're all Crimson Fists and they all have the dark blue. And they do have all the Crimson Fists. They're painted with Mephisting Rad. It's, yeah. I mean, it's like, come on. I mean, that's quite spectacular. They're just dropping from orbit, not necessarily from orbit, but just in sort of this conga line of all the blastiness. Yeah, and flyers and stuff. But yeah, I'm trying not to necessarily take too long with this book through. Well, it's even just for the artwork, it's just an absolute delight. One of the old dioramas. It's. I'm trying to remember. I think someone was looking for this somewhere because that's that Dreadnought's of course got the ultramarine U on the sort of symbol just within the joint, sort of thing, towards the right soldier, shoulder. That's it. And then you could just have like ordinary city cars and dune crawlers and stuff. And not universal characters from, universal carriers from World War II, with some strange orc gun, but led by human cultists, you know. Yeah. And the venerable Land Raider is large enough to accommodate 10 troops of their equipment. And then they're all sort of got cramp and they're all walking with a waddle. It's just, yeah. Was it? I was going to call them Eggnaughts. But yeah. Talks about the Stega tank, and I'm just sort of thinking it's like, well, it's not on here, but it's on the other page. No. And of course, lovely old diagram of the internals of a Space Marines armour. Food and drug fella. And wheeled robots. Yeah, it's sort of a shame. I know they did the whole sort of thing where they had AI robots in 40k, and then they decided to get rid of them all because in the lore, this is there had been AI, but Chaos had possessed the AI and they'd all gone really weird and stuff. But it does sort of be quite cool to have like Chaos robots tooling about the universe, being all weird and stuff. And then there's the Adeptus Mechanicus. Probably having, having herds of large hordes of servitors trying to combat them or something. It's not R2D2. How dare you for saying it's R2D2? Like I nearly said earlier. Give him danger. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, because he's still got the Von Roth stuff. Oh, it's the same guy. Yeah. And it's just sort of, it's... I'm having a look at a lot of the artwork, but yeah, power boards, and it's just having like the hoverboards and stuff, and it's, yeah. Polymorphine drug. I mean, that's now part of the, pardon me, there we are, and parrot wings. Yeah, it's just being able to, yeah. Just, well, again, be eccentric with it all. And you have in this like thin skinned stum and antidote, rad suit, and just having all these sort of stuff, and it's sort of like, even if they built it into kill team, that would be quite fun. I'm trying to see if there's a, because I know in the third ed box for fantasy, there'd been little symbol in one of the corners, near one of the corners, and then that was that was a symbol for one of the illustrators. It's a shame they've not necessarily done that. Yeah, it's just having a bit of a look, and it's like I thought that one was a bit different from all the others, but yeah. Yeah, warp creatures. Denoting that all the stars and stuff coming out of his head to denote that he's been invaded by the warp. But yeah, it still sort of amazes me that, and of course you've got the Imperial hierarchy with the still got the Adeptus Custodes, the Adept Custodians, Adeptus Mechanicus, Arbites, Astronomica, that's it, the Astra Telepathica, Planetary Administration and stuff. They've still, yeah, Administorum Inquisition. They've still got a lot of stuff like the Astronomicon, even as early as this. It was 87. Well, that's when the copyright is anyway. And you could still have factored in a lot of stuff like the Egri worlds, the Death worlds, the Feral, the Hive world, the Industrial world, the Medieval world, Paradise planets. You could still, even these just types of planets were lifted and put into more recent editions of 40k. I don't know about the more, I've not necessarily had a look at the 8th, 9th or 10th edition of 40k properly, but it's got a bit weird. It's quite like the idea of some of the cards and stuff, like the stratagem cards and the secondary objectives and stuff, but they seem to have gone a bit too far with using all of them. I quite like the around about 5th or 6th edition, but yeah, it's or is it the usual John Blanche picture of the Emperor where he's on the golden throne, sat on the golden throne. Apparently there was something about how that was meant to be for that he was actually just sort of basically a museum piece. He was the on the Golden Throne. Pardon me. That famous picture of by John Blanche of the Emperor on the Golden Throne. That was meant to be for the sake of pilgrimages, that pilgrims had come and see the. There was a real emperor behind the scenes somewhere. And I think someone did a model of this one, and it was just quite like. I think this is a John Blanche again, but I quite like the idea of that he is somewhere actually sort of fully plumbed into a machine, into his Davros chair. Yeah, and it's basically goes into the organisations of the of the Imperium again. But yeah. Habit colours for each of the adeptus bits. Well, there you are, yeah. The two heads of the two-headed eagle, both heads are the Astra Telepathica and Astronomicon. The wings are the Adeptus Mechanicus. The feet are the Arbites and the Administratum. And something else, probably the body, is the Adept Custards. The competent custards. Well, yeah, I'm just yeah. Did he ever get an actual profile? Because that's Obiwan Sherlock Clouseau. But it'd be nice that he'd gone so sort of rogue that he's now come back to the Imperium, and he's now been introduced to some sort of character in perhaps Necromunda or something. Or that could be quite fun that he's been gone rogue, disappearing for a number of decades or centuries, and then he just turns up being a mix of Obi-Wan, Sherlock Holmes, and Inspector Clouseau. Sorry, you're meant to be a bit more nasal. Inspector Clouseau. It's yeah, sort of a shame you can't. So, yeah, that. I know he's meant to be a bit of a joke and stuff, but still, it'd be sort of quite nice to have him turn up. Or I know you're probably breaking about 3 separate copyrights with Inspector Clouseau, Obi-Wan, and Sherlock Holmes or whatever, but you have basically a pun on either of them. O.P. Holmes, other French name. Fantomas. That's it. I was trying to remember. Yeah, there was there's the French inspector and the Edwardian French Pulp Fiction criminal called Fantomas. So it'd be, yeah, just do a bit of a play on words. I think he's in the public domain, I think, Fantomas is. So it's having sort of, yeah, a D Star Wars first name, and then just having sort of, probably even just going through some of the old, like 10th century Edwardian detectives to just sort of, what is it? I was thinking Flash Gordon instead of Obi-Wan, but yeah. But yeah, and it was just sort of, but yeah, that you could just do inquisitorial forces and just have like, yeah, again, be eccentric and stuff with all the builds and things, and that you could sort of have characters that are brought in for the, psychers, and they had Astra Telepathicus, Telepathica. The catacombs beneath the Emperor's Palace, members of the Adeptus Terra go about their daily routine of maintenance and servitude. And pardon the traffic noises outside, because I'm basically filming this about sort of dinner time, and it's just sort of, well, rush hour and stuff. But it's just all the different sort of, yeah, psychic abilities being able to be used, and navigators. And being able, yeah. Yeah, and of course, he doesn't look sane at all, does he? Yeah, sorry, yeah. I'm not necessarily looking at the book through the camera, but yeah, it's so just occasionally checking on the camera itself. It's always quite nice that you have a list of the original chapters and their colour schemes, like yeah. Whereas you do have the blood drinkers, but they're sort of more, well, red brown, sort of probably more of a terracotta colour compared to the blood angels. That you still do have like flesh tearers and flesh eaters. Iron Hands are black. Yeah, rainbow warriors, multicoloured. That might even be before the rainbow flag was associated with organisations. So yeah, I'm just having a bit of a think. Yeah, and Dark Angels are black. Yeah, it's just all quite curious. It's just sort of. No, I'm just saying that it's just, just opens up its use a little bit without sort of. And you can or can you don't necessarily have to have it with any sort of more modern affiliations, or you could if you wanted. Because I mean, I've just been on about sort of having all these sort of very eccentric things in the term of gameplay and stuff. You could incorporate all this stuff into it, and all this eccentric, this sort of eccentric mix of stuff from, like, having cavemen go up against someone with a graviton gun or whatever. Just have this sort of this swathe of different stuff. Yeah, no, Snipe and Wib did a video on the Eldar. Yeah, and it's like with this guy. I mean, they've both got the same chins. The clones of Judge Dredd, now you know. This guy, the guy on the left, you can see his shirt. He's got the trio of skulls and stuff, and and it sort of almost suggested that they've got leopard print pants, trousers. Yeah, he's got to know which way to put his boots on, so he's got to know which way's up. So yeah, A for a boot. But yeah, it's just all this lovely artwork and stuff. Was it Desire? I think that's meant to fully say. You're just having all these different sorts of graviton gun again. Yeah, weapon generator. Yeah, warriors of the army. So this is basically what would become the Imperial Guard. Yeah, and it's being able to take a D cannon or beamer and stuff. And it's just, yeah, I think it's really cool. Toulon Hess. I've recognised the style, and I'm not necessarily sure whose it is. But yeah, I'm trying to even just be. I can't quite get. I think that might be a pointy ear. I can't quite see, but yeah, because I was having a bit of a look at the, similar to some of the Eldar stuff, but I can't quite see from this angle without headbutting the tripod or something. I can't quite see. So yeah, and of course, again, you can sort of see what the stuff is. You know, you have the blood drinkers, not necessarily as terracotta colours as all that, but yeah, because that's the blood compared to the blood angels. Yeah, having flesh eaters in maroon or something, but yeah. Of course, the Rainbow Warriors had the down the different stripes down the beak. Yeah, that's it. Dark Angels compared to the Iron Hands and the Flesh Tearers. I just noticed he's got the orc head. Yeah, the assassins, and they do look a bit Judge Dredd-like. Yeah, it is the diorama again. Because, yeah, I think that's one of the first. There wasn't necessarily any. Yes, there are Ultramarines. But I think, and with this Dreadnought, and these guys, I can just about see some of the shoulder bits and one of the skull decors, with it being, yeah, just having a bit of a smash the Emperor or whatever. Hold on, it's probably Orkson have spelt it right, but he's on fire. He's smashed in like the Kool-Aid Man. Oh yeah. But yeah, it's the Emperor again, and because I quite like, in a sense, I quite like this because he got all the smeared sort of oiliness coming out of the sort of like the chitinous parts. It's just sort of, it's all misty and stuff, and I think this is a row of figures disappearing off into the mist, and that it is sort of like almost factory-like. In a sense, I quite like that there is sort of, there are two emperors. There's the one actually doing all the behind the scenes, plumbed in and doing all the business, or there is the emperor on the golden throne who is the who is only there for tourists. Yeah, it's before I forget, if you do like me carrying on with these things, with these book throughs, I'm planning on doing more. If you do like these book throughs, let me know. Doing a thumbs up and comments and subscribing is always muchly appreciated. And if you would say, like, because I've just gone through some of the history of like the Imperial Army and stuff, if you'd like me to basically just go through each sections where you see the history, all the specific sections, like for example the Imperial Army, and I'm going to show, say, the army lists, I'd be perfectly willing to do that. Because yeah, squats defend a vital bridge. Kill. But yeah, having the squats on the page, the intro bit for the Eldar, yeah. And this, I think, is the book where you did. It's even like some of the colour schemes with the purple sort of tiger stripes, or yeah, and they having the yellow and black there. But yeah, it's the whole piece, looking at it together. So that's why they've just had the squats on the previous page. Yeah, it's just sort of like almost slightly more dynamic, sort of drawing a bit more sort of personal. Yeah, I know 40k now sort of almost encourages the huge mass armies and stuff like that, but it's sort of on sort of smaller scale stuff. It's sort of almost quite. It'd sort of almost be nice to bring back a lot more of the crunchiness, to do more of a sort of well, I suppose they've got Horus Heresy for that, but having something that's a bit shrunk down, smaller. The battles a bit smaller in scale, but a lot more crunchier. So you can sort of probably do a campaign where, I mean, this is better crippled in body than corrupt in mind, where it's, you know, you do take a bit more sort of. You are talking about having like almost like a war band or two, like say, like with Necromunda or Wartime, you have like a small war. You have like 2 or 3 a platoon-sized thing where you know you have 21 tank and 25 infantry or something, and you know you have like the injuries and you know the later permanent effects of having some sort of psychic attack or something. If you've had your elbows shot at by, you know, a graviton gun and your elbows started floating off into the distance or something, you know, it's just, you know, you get a dislocated shoulder or whatever. It's just having the effect, like the injury tables and stuff. But Orcoids and the Orc domains. I quite like that term, the Orc domains, instead of saying an Orcish empire, because Orcs probably wouldn't be able to have would not necessarily be able to get their head round running and organising an actual empire, but you know, having a selection of domains that are allying or clobbering each other at their whim would be quite curious. Monsieur Spiky. Blair. What? Yeah, pig-faced orc. At the top here, yeah. Pig face. Yeah, and it's, in a sense, it'd be quite nice, because I know there used to be red orcs, and there were the pig face and the ordinary orcs. Sort of like almost diversifying with different sorts of orcs, beyond saying orc, grot. Oh, I think it... Is it meant to be Andy Chambers? The orc sculptor, on the tip of my tongue, if you remember the famous orc sculptor who's famous for doing orcs and goblins, who's still about in the background of stuff, please let me know. Please send in your answers on a postcard that I might never read, but alternatively, leave a comment if you can remember, because I can't off the top of my head. It's on the tip of my tongue. He's famous for it. And he does the orcs with the. He does the shaved green gorilla orcs. Yeah, it's again, it's. I think some of these were. Yeah, and it's okay. Having a leopard print Eldar and stuff, and you know, having the test bed slave or whatever. I think he was based on one of the staff at the time. Oh, nuts! Can't remember the name. I seem to think this guy was based on someone from the staff as well. But yeah, I'm struggling to remember now. Gretchen. In a sense, I do quite like the old terms and stuff, and it's just sort of a shame that they didn't keep up with, say, calling them Gretchens or just shortened to Grot. And this is a famous piece. Can't necessarily. We go. John Blanche. I remember this being in the second ad, one of the main rule books for that, because they had a couple of, you got the box set and you had like the war gear book and stuff. Because I was fascinated with that. But he was just in the ruins, yet he seemed to be some sort of, he's there in a suit, a tatty suit, and you got the mutant dog climbing the wall and stuff. And you just got this figure in red, and it's just sort of on there, sort of thinking, what on earth's going on here? It's like, yeah, sort of almost suggested that the figure in red is Tech Priest or something, but yeah, lined up again. And it's just, these are the days of the shampoo can tank. And of course, you probably saw it a moment ago, the slan, ancient slan of their inheritance. And it's them having it being them being more newt-like rather than like with modern lizard men. And it's just going into sort of like the ancient history with the slan. All the races in the galaxy, the slan claim to be and may actually be the oldest. The days of their bright empire are waning, but still they remain amongst the most enigmatic creatures of known space. In a sense, it was very similar in the third edition stuff at the time, that third edition fantasy stuff at the time, that they were basically newt people, and that had come through the worm gate because the galaxies were about that far away from. Games Workshop was that far away from admitting that they were actually connected, and possibly one of the missing Primox might have been Sigmar. Might. Yeah, it's like even having the Jokero. Are a fascinating race. For one thing, no outsider has ever decided whether they are intelligent. They are certainly capable of tremendous feats of engineering, construction and problem solving, yet they have no language, culture or motivation higher than survival. And it's basically just describing an orangutan. It's not Irajima. Webbed foot mutation for the Tyranids. It's confirmed they can swim. Well, they sort of expected that they can swim, but it's sort of... In having the Zotes. And the Astral Hounds. Having Astral Spectres. Astral Hounds resemble large, dark, shadowy dogs. They are carnivorous and extremely predatory, but are not intelligent. Brute instinct allows them to track the psychic aura of their prey through warp space. Although hounds can track the psychic aura of aura of any creature with psychic abilities, the strongest and most attractive scent is that of the unprotected human psyker. Etc., etc., etc. Yeah, and it's just sort of, having, psych neweens and enslavers and stuff. Yeah, and it's sort of like this. It sort of be quite sort of interesting if the like say out of the Google stars, have some of these sort of things just come, and it's sort of like this strange overlap of time. And the Inquisition, the Ordo Kronos are investigating it, but it's hard because there are all these weird creatures, probably from like an alternate sort of 40k thing where everything's weird, like having two eyes strapped together. Yeah. Yeah, the ambuls and stuff, but having zombies is a more common thing as well. But But it's pretty good that they've actually got Katachan with the Face Eater and the Devil quite so early on. Although the Face Eater, I would hazard a guess, in its junior form would probably have fewer legs and then leap out at people and stick to the face. I wonder where they got that from. Cathilian could bear. You can even get, having dinosaurs and stuff. It's just. I know they've got stuff to do with the Eldar. Some of the Eldar exodites. That's the word. that it's sort of having a Gyrinx and stuff. Oh, that's a Gyrinx. Having Groxes and things. It's, in a sense, it'd be quite nice to be able to just have all these weird sort of creatures again, like lashworms that just so happen to look a bit like a horse. Just mimics one. And having weird stuff that's just called rippy fish that generally seem. No, it is toughness 1, so it is meant to be sort of a bit smaller than a human. It's sort of thinking there's something that has the same competent skills as a human or whatever. But it's still really Katachan again, Brainleaf. I think it'd really be quite interesting to be able to introduce a lot of this stuff back and just have. Say even just sort of like going onto a death world and it's like the planet's trying to sabotage everyone's battle planet. It's almost having sort of like almost 3 separate phases where it's a turn for the opponent, one opponent, a turn for the other player, and then the terrain has a third go, and it's almost as if it's like the planet itself. The terrain is its own player as well, and you have the spikers or something. So I'm going to skip through these a little bit or just go a touch quicker, because let's have a look. Squats, Eldar, because I'm having a bit of a look myself. It's been a while since I've had a proper look through these. It's I mean, a lot of the armies are now quite diverse again still. I mean, you've got more types of army with the reintroduction of Adeptus Mechanicus and the squats than you've had for years, but it'd sort of still be quite interesting to do some sort of platoon-based thing where you could basically go to, say, a lawless Wild West style town and tool about on your jet bike and play arm wrestling. Yeah, I'm thinking it's like the wanted poster. Is he actually in the room? I'm not sure he is. It's quite. Yeah. But yeah, it's because these are the days when the Space Marines were sort of basically just sort of the particular. They weren't bioengineered super hit soldiers. They were basically just ordinary people, but trained soldiers put on very high doses of weird drugs to make them more vicious. Well, yeah, it sort of is a bit of a shame that you can't have quite such. I'm just yeah. Oh, the water cellar is a small podging covered in tattoos. But you can't necessarily go about having, say, street punks or anything. of bits where you have like you do actually have armoured miners and stuff, but yeah, the advanced gamer. This is just making me it's Mr. Arg again. Scenic insanity. Dust seas, crystal forests, and other such stuff. I just have, in a sense, it would be quite nice to just have this sort of stuff included again in things, but yeah, it's not necessarily going to be the case, is it? Them being able to do like a specific sort of, where it's a smaller battle, but you could introduce a lot of other eccentric things like, but yeah, being able to do a campaign and probably even taking inspiration from these sections and stuff at the back of one of their first books. But yeah, doubt they're going to do that. Yeah, you got the whole injury chart. And plot generators, where you got new world reprisal, quell rebellions and investigating things, supporting rebellions, or raid and kill, raid and destroy. Yeah, it's eventually oddball situations and special operations. And having like subplots, yeah, in a sense it would be quite nice to see. I think that's Rick Priestley. There you are. Can't necessarily see. I don't recognise the other two blokes in the photo, but they're mirrored again just down here. I think up here. But yeah, it sort of would be quite nice. We could have a smaller battle that's more campaign led. A medium scale thing where it's just in between, say, full on 40k and kill team. And we go into some of the crafting stuff where it's you paint everything in goblin green, including the blue bits. Having some basic shading chart and stuff. It's quite good. Yeah, and they do actually go about showing you how to craft things out of sticky back plastic and polystyrene cups. And just random stuff that you can find around the house and stuff. Because this might actually be the section with the good old shampoo bottle tank. Now this certainly is a batch of a load of the staff, because you've got Jarvis Johnson just here. That's Trish Carden. Rick Priestley says boo. Not necessarily able to name very many, but yeah, Perry twins. Even he's slightly similar, but yeah, as one of the Perry twins. But yeah, one of these will be John Blanche. It's probably this one here. I think that's John Blanche. Sorry, I'm just sort of. Oh no, that's John Blanche. Sorry, yeah. But it's just sort of. Yeah, there's that new movie coming out about finding John Blanche. If you can find, I should have done the joke. If you can find John Blanche, you get a GW medal. Dole. But yeah, it's just sort of. I'm now getting nostalgic for the days before I actually started collecting and this stuff. It's like, I want to get into old school D&D now. Old school 40k now. Yeah. Yeah, even having an author's note on languages and stuff. Over the millennia, language has changed greatly and now bears almost no resemblance to the tongues from which it's derived. Although a common language, it varies from planet to planet and even from region to region, so that it is not always easy for two characters to communicate if they are from different worlds. But yeah. It's, yeah, even sort of like having a note on the technology of the age of the Imperium. Yeah, it's just sort of been able, yeah. Brother Vermilion and Sister Sin. Yeah, they even had the standard template constructions and stuff here. Well, yeah, it's going into sort of the background and stuff. Again, if you'd, it's like even just sort of perhaps even reading some of this sort of stuff out here. If you'd be interested in me reading out specific sections, like some of the old background and stuff, yeah, let me know in the comments. Yeah, because it's now over an hour. I think I did the Third Ed Fantasy Army book. I think I did that in roughly about the same sort of length of time and stuff. But yeah, I've been like actual game master information and stuff. Oh, is it still perforated, these? Orc player briefs. No one wants to look at the Orc player's briefs. He's an Orc player. His briefs, his underwear's probably in terrible condition. Would make anyone go warg. Yeah, it's just sort of, yeah. Yeah. There we go. And we go on to the last couple of bits, but yeah. I've got a few of the other books. I've got the first Woof Up rule book that I'm intending to have a bit of a look through. I'm having that as well. And with this sort of stuff, it's sort of, that's pretty much the end. And then we get back to the back cover. I hope you enjoyed this. Well done for seeing all the way through if you got this far. Please comment with beans if you do. Quite like saying beans. Don't know why, but I do. But if you like what you've seen, press all the buttons and I'll try to, if you manage to leave a comment, I'll answer the comment and stuff. Yeah. There we go. That just leaves me to say, stay safe, stay groovy.